Oklahoma City. About 7, 8 years ago, they decided that the airport is going to need a larger expansion to update the security, the TSA, and then just add more additional terminals because of the more and more flights, direct flights that are happening here. So in Oklahoma City, we have this thing called 1% for Art, and that's any public art project. They have 1% dedicated to art. And I was very interested. I'm in what's called the artist pool, which means you have to basically give them some samples of your work, and then you're in this list of selected potential artists for these kinds of projects. So I applied naturally. The project was terrazzo flooring and etched glass, which we can look at here in a bit. But I thought my style, which is a lot of geometric, flat colors and compositional design, would go well for terrazzo. And so I submitted. I was elated to find out I was a finalist. That was in September of 2018. And in January 2019, I started working on designs. And in February 25th, a date I'll never forget, I was selected as the artist for the new airport, which essentially is 40,000 square feet of terrazzo artwork, my designs, and then there's a curtain wall that basically encircles an atrium, which we'll look at, that is all etched glass. And I was selected out of the 5 finalists. There were, I guess, 3 from other countries, and I was the only Oklahoma City artist, actually, and so I'm very, very proud. It's been the biggest thing that's really ever happened to me in my career. So
let's talk about it.
Okay,
Let's show it off.
cool.
All right.
So in the lobby, which is where we are, I thought it was important, and it's important to kind of tell the story of Oklahoma City. It's not really, this project wasn't really like me expressing my innermost feelings or anything. It was more of me expressing through my art and design the story of Oklahoma City. So the lobby I thought was a great place to start with the history. So there's no way to talk about the history without going into the indigenous people that lived and live in these lands. So prior to statehood, prior to the city. So we have in this section is the prehistory of Oklahoma. We have oil. We've got dinosaur, buffalo. We have a Native American hunting buffalo here. And as we go through, also, by the way, the design creates a kind of a compositional flow into the TSA. So in a way, there's kind of a subliminal, this is the direction to go. Here we have teepees. We have 5 teepees that form the basic composition, which you'll see shoot off this way. They are sort of at the top. There's a line that goes across. There's a cannon in this corner. That represents the date that the city was founded, of April 29, 1889, and that was the land run. That was, I guess, the city was founded in basically 1 hour, and I have the date of 1889 in Roman numerals here. Once you're past this, we're kind of going into sort of the future and mankind's inspiration to fly from nature, which I have incorporated birds. Right now they are covered conveniently. They are done in it's in a brushed aluminum, polished aluminum, and then
Can we see that on your sheet there?
Yeah, we have these here. This is kind of the drawing I did. So these are little polished aluminum, all kinds of birds. And then in the middle we have a large human hand and a bow and arrow. The arrow forms the body of a scissor tail, which is kind kind of flying toward the sun. Also, again, this is kind of directing this way. And this is the representation of kind of mankind's inspiration from birds, nature, to fly, and the tools being, in this case, the arrowhead, and then eventually jet airplanes. So that was kind of the concept. The other thing to mention about the lobby is that the colors, before you go on a flight, a lot of people are a little stressed. So we purposefully went with kind of some calming colors. I went with Oklahoma colors. Red dirt, this kind of sort of salmony pink, which if any Oklahoman knows, anything white gets this dirt on it, it creates this kind of sort of sand pink color, which is a color I love. And then of course blue for sky. We've got green prairie, and then basically colors of Oklahoma. In a way that you can see these elements as you walk, but there's a skywalk up here, and I wanted it to be able to kind of show a big picture when you're up there that you kind of don't see down here. So that's also the case in the main atrium past the TSA area. Skywalk, you can kind of see the big picture here. There's a glass, which right now is very dirty because we're still in a construction zone. So we have a lot of dust floating around, and but you can see the scissor tail and the arrow, which is underneath the that cardboard covering, and then the circle kind of it represents the sun, which is essentially high noon, which is the date that which was the time of day that the land run started. So what's cool is you can go past TSA without ticketing and kind of wait in the lounge area that's back here and see your mom get off the plane or whatever, but you don't have to go through TSA, and there'll be there'll be some concession and things up here so you can hang out. But if you walk this way, I'll show you the rest of it. Kind of the observation level, I guess. You can look down on the art. Right now it's covered because it's under construction, but it's essentially a very large medallion, and we have Will Rogers inside of a lasso, and he's kind of showing us the culture of Oklahoma City, which is I have represented as sports, music, hospitality, and places. Couple different views, and up here if you look down you can see most of this is covered, but you can see the bench that people will be able to put their shoes back on while they're coming out of TSA, and there'll be all the colors. You can kind of see a little bit of the hospitality with I have a steak and there's some cherry limeade, and I've got an onion burger back there. On the music, we have just sort of elements, guitars, stars. I don't ever show, like for sports, logos, so there's no like OU or anything. But we do have football represented, and we have a world-class rowing facility, so I have some of that, and soccer, and then baseball. So yeah, basketball. Shoot, how can I forget the Thunder? So now the glass here is an interesting thing. People will wonder what these are. I kind of thought they were cool because to me they look sort of like cowboy brands or maybe native petroglyphs. But what they are is actual weather symbols representing separate and different weather events. So I knew that I wanted the second level to be the sky and weather, because weather is such a crazy topic in Oklahoma. We have the National Weather Center in Norman. So, I knew I wanted to do that, but I was also thinking, well, how do I show a tornado in an airport? That's not going to really be very calming for people that are traveling. But with a symbol, I can. So one of these represents a tornado, but each one is different. Like I think this might be ice and hail. Some are very like pleasant weather, nothing, sunshine. So really I think we have over 150 different weather symbols that encompass the entire curtain wall. If you look at the way they're designed, in the way they're placed, it creates kind of a wave around the whole atrium. I didn't want them to be too loud or bold to kind of encumber or inhibit you from being able to see the artwork below. So that's why they're kind of at a sort of a transparent kind of opacity. And if you walk, as we walk around, you'll be able to kind of see the flow as we go. Some of these we're still working on. These came out too light, so we're going to replace them. I put tape on these, but so they get larger and smaller and larger and smaller, and they kind of change in how they're laid out. In addition to the symbols changing, we'll have a legend over here, so you can see what each one represents, and no, there's no satanic symbolism, which is a big sort of a conspiracy thing on the Denver airport. If you're unfamiliar, Google that. It's crazy. I think right here we're going to do the legend of what all the weather symbols are and a little bit about the idea. So up here you'll be able to hang out, and there'll be monitors. You can watch whatever is on, and you can look down at the art. You can see people coming in from the TSA. Or down, if we look down the concourse area, you'll be able to see people, leaving and getting off the plane. So, ready? So now we're on the ground floor. This is once you've already come through TSA. Over here is the large medallion with Will Rogers that's covered on the bench. You'll also notice the entire spaces in between that and all the other medallions are all circles. They're giant circles. And if you've ever flown on an airplane and looked down, you'll see circles on the earth, and a lot of those are like in a pattern. Those are pivot irrigation for farms and things. So that was the inspiration for the circles. Again, the mezzanine curtain wall represents the sky. So the project is OKC Connected. That's the name of the entire thing. I should have started with that. So in here we have the connection of earth to sky. In the lobby, the connection was ancient past to the founding of the city and then into the future. And then here we have the connection of Oklahoma City, its culture, people, and industries. Commercial enterprises. As you walk down the concourse, we'll be able to see a couple of these industry medallions. Some of the others are covered right now. This one here is real dusty, but this represents biotechnology. So I just had a lot of fun with the biotech imagery, and I really work on composition. It's something that I'm sort of obsessed with as far as how things connect to other things, and there's always like sort of a puzzle piece element, how these things work, what's placed where, and I also like using lines that create different objects kind of overlapping, which is actually part of the concept with the connected, is that all these lines go all throughout the entire project. As you go further down, biotech, there's no talking about Oklahoma economy without touching on energy. It's the bedrock of our economy, and yeah, no pun intended, but this is kind of the representation of a large oil or natural gas well, and then we have kind of elements of the city that this industry fuels. So as you go further down, we have a large medallion that's dedicated to agriculture. Agriculture is still a major industry for Oklahoma. I love nature, and it was a really kind of a fun thing to actually be able to work on some animals. We have a horse and a pig and a cow and then a barn. My whole family are farmers. My dad's a preacher, but prior to that, they were all farmers. So that was kind of a fun one. And then this is the second largest medallion is this kind of welcome to the capital of Native America. We have a basket we've designed with a star and then 39 arrowheads. There's 39 tribes that are in Oklahoma, and the 39 arrowheads represent the 39 tribes. So when you come off the plane, this is kind of the first thing you'll see if you're coming off of these gates here. And then if you look back, you're going to see all this light and color. These, when they're not dusty, are just pops of color. And these pops all happen in this field of kind of neutrals. Speaking of neutrals, when we talk about the main medallion that's right now covered, we have Will Rogers, which if you think about it, we only know Will from old photos. So these sepia colors that I'm using in all these neutral spaces, I've used on Will, because he's kind of, again, that's how we know him, are these old photos and movies that he was in. This is the presentation folder I created. We're standing on the Native American medallion. Here's the energy medallion, the biotechnology. Here's the agriculture, if you can see it. Unfortunately, these were covered, but we have an aerospace one. We have a huge aerospace industry in Oklahoma. And then probably the most important place to most Oklahomans is the Oklahoma City National Memorial. And on that one, we have an empty chair that represents the profound importance that the Oklahoma City National Memorial has for our city and its people. Again, these books were a part of a presentation that I gave, and it is how I won the airport. People ask me what's the hardest part of this project, and it's all been hard, but one of the biggest challenges I had, which was a learning experience, and I think a really great one for young artists too that are trying to get into public art, was it was sort of a cultural sensitivity. As a primarily Anglo-European descent male, I didn't have the understanding, plus I'm not originally from Oklahoma, but I didn't really know that the land run holds some painful, there's some painful elements or emotions associated with the land run. And the lobby initially was entirely designed originally as the land run. And I kept the main composition, but the original design, if I can find it in here. Original design basically was a hand at 12 o'clock and people going to find their plots of land and covered wagons and things. You can see I kept that composition, but I changed the design after talking with some people with the Native American Cultural Center. I think they call it First Americans Museum now, and a few other people in the city. I decided that it was important to approach the city and say, hey, we've got to redesign this. And it wasn't something I wanted to do because A, they had approved it, B, that was going to be a ton more work, but I knew that it was bigger than that. It was more important than me and the work, and it needed to be changed. So we changed it to the concept of flight and inspiration, and I gave more of a native, a nod to the Native American community that has, been great examples for us to steward this land and just, the respect for the land and for the history. So that was the most challenging thing. We see a lot of that in public art, a lot of things happening with the Confederate statues coming down, and I think cultural sensitivity is an important part of public art because it really is something that's for the entire public. It's not for one sector. I think in the past it has been for certain individual people that, I don't know, that maybe, whatever. All I know is it needed to be for everyone, and that was kind of the reason for redesigning that piece. So that's the most challenging. So what is my favorite part of this project? Shoot. So I guess it would be hard to top. I gave the presentation. I felt really good about it. I was working around the clock the days prior, and I had help from an architect friend who helped me create the renderings of what it looks like in the space. So I worked really hard on that presentation. I created these folders that were all limited edition. There's only 15 of them that are not signed and numbered. I did like 4 extras for mom and dad and stuff. But so I guess it was after that presentation I went back to the studio, and mom is on Facebook. How'd it go? How'd it go? And I'm chatting with her, and I get a phone call from an unknown number. And I answer it, and it's Randy from the city, and he says, Matt, I had made a model of the airport with Adam Landman's help. And so Randy's, he's on the phone, he's calling me, he goes, Matt, we just need to let you know that you need to come up here and get this model the hell out of here. And I'm like, and then I hear laughter from the room because I'm on speakerphone. And then it hits me. I'm about to get some good news. So that's when they tell me that I won the project. So I was literally chatting with mom, and I gotta tell her. And so I almost get misty-eyed thinking about it because, as a kid that didn't do great in school, really the only thing I ever was great at or the only thing I really loved that people said I was decent at was art. And so I got into graphic design, thinking that would be a good way to, pay the bills, make a living, buy a car maybe. And you never could have told me that I could ever land a major public art project such as this, something that's going to be here for many, many years, possibly after I am long and gone. I don't know. But really, I don't know. I think the main exciting thing was also seeing it finished when they first brought me up here and it was polished. Because up until then, the scale and the colors, they were all really in my head. We had done samples, we drew it out. I even did some life-size printouts of Will Rogers' head and stuff, but to know that it was going to work, was just, had me in absolute terror. I was up at night, with nightmares going, what if this is just a total failure and people are going to hate it, and then I'm going to be hated by these are things that, entered my head. So to see it finished, it just hit me that this is better than you had planned, and all the hard work is going to pay off. And there's always going to be naysayers, as there is with anything in the public, but once you see something and you were going for it and it was what you wanted to have happen, then you can really let any criticism kind of go by, because it doesn't matter. And honestly, it has been nothing but praise. The public hasn't seen it yet, though, so we'll have to see. But everyone that has seen it has been completely, blown away by it. And that, I guess, is the best thing that's happened to me on this project. Okay, so my creative process. All right, I get up in the morning and I do a deep cleansing charcoal bath No, I basically have no real technique for how I come up with ideas. I will say I've learned some things over the years, and one is, the biggest thing is to not force it. Whenever I have a project come in, whether it's a logo or an airport, what I do is I try to learn as much information about it as I can, and I talk to the client or the patron. I do this with all my paintings. I'll kind of try to think about what the project is, you know, not about how I'm going to do it. And then I literally don't think about it at all. I completely get it out of my head. I don't try to get it out of my head, I just don't think about it. I turn on whatever, Netflix, I just go about my life. And then at some point, invariably, every single time, at some point, I might be at a stoplight or whatever, I will just like go, oh yeah, that is it. That's the idea. And then at that point, there's no army on earth that can tear me away from working on it. So I don't know if it's a bit of laziness, but I really think what it is your subconscious is everything. Your subconscious is what's working on that stuff when you're just zoning out watching Netflix. It's working in the back of your head, and I know that for a fact. And I had that with this airport. I learned as much about it. It wasn't until we got the kind of blueprints of the space that I know what the canvas would be. But until the day we started, or until I guess it was, I don't know, 4 or 5 months after I found out I was a finalist, it occurred to me, okay, we need to do this, and I need to do this, and then it was nonstop. I was working around the clock on it. So yeah, that's it. That's my secret. I take huge inspiration from nature, just because I love nature so much. I grew up my adolescence in Arizona. And Arizona is so diverse. You know, people think it's all desert, but it's way, way, way more diverse than that. And when I moved there, I moved from Flint, Michigan, when I was 10 years old, 11 years old, and I was so frustrated. I didn't want to move, but once I got to Arizona and saw the nature, I'd never seen anything like it, and it literally changed my life. And from then on, I've been just a huge nature lover, and so much of my inspiration comes from nature, just because I love it. Also, I really love history, so a lot of those two things, sometimes the same, are what I pull inspiration from, and that's it.
Thank you.